At Mom's funeral, my sisters weren't crying about her death. They were fighting over who would get the master bedroom in the house. They stopped laughing when the lawyer pulled out the ledger showing they actually owed the estate $150,000.
The Quiet Case Files.
The rain had finally stopped by the time the last shovel of dirt hit the casket. I stood there, staring at the fresh earth, feeling a weight in my chest that had nothing to do with grief and everything to do with exhaustion. For 7 years, my life had been a blur of doctor's appointments, late-night emergencies, and the slow, heartbreaking decline of the woman who raised me. I was tired, bone-deep tired. I just want to go home, lock the door, and sleep for a week. But I knew that was not going to happen. As I walked toward my beat-up sedan, I heard the crunch of gravel behind me. 2 shiny black luxury SUVs pulled up, looking completely out of place in our modest cemetery. My brother Steve and my sister Karen stepped out. They were dressed in designer black, looking like they were attending a gala rather than their mother's burial. They had not visited in 3 years. Not once. Not when Mom forgot who I was. Not when she fell and broke her hip. But here they were now, right on time. We drove back to the house in a convoy, my rusted car leading their rented chariots. The moment we walked through the front door, the dynamic shifted. I went to the kitchen to put on a pot of coffee, trying to be a good host. But before the water even started boiling, I heard them in the living room. They were not reminiscing. They were walking around the room, picking up vases and checking the bottom for maker's marks. They were vultures circling a carcass, and I realized with a sinking feeling that they did not see a home. They saw a paycheck. I walked into the living room with the coffee tray, and Steve was already tapping on the wall, checking for hollow spots. "Good bones," he muttered, not even looking at me. "We should get a stager in here by Monday. The market is hot right now, Dave. We do not want to miss the window." Karen was busy scrolling through her phone, probably looking up real estate comparable sales. "I was thinking we listed at $450,000, she said, without looking up. "Split 3 ways, that is a nice chunk of change. I have a contractor lined up for my kitchen remodel, and this would cover it perfectly." I set the tray down hard. The china cups rattled against the saucers. "Mom is not even cold yet," I said, my voice shaking. "Can we please just be a family for one afternoon? We can talk about this estate next week." Karen stopped scrolling. She looked at me, her eyes cold and hard. She slammed her hand down on the dining table, the sound echoing through the quiet house. "No, David, we are not waiting. I have bills, Steve has loans. We need to settle the estate today." I looked at them, really looked at them. I saw the greed, the impatience, the total lack of sorrow. Something inside me snapped. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and dialed a number I had saved on speed dial. "Hello, Mr. Henderson?" I said into the receiver, holding their gaze. "Yes, they are here. You better bring the file over now." I hung up and sat down opposite them. "Okay," I said, my voice dropped dead calm. "If you want to do the math now, let's do the math." Mr. Henderson arrived precisely 20 minutes later. He was a man of few words, carrying a battered leather briefcase that looked like it had seen 1,000 disputes just like this one. He nodded to me, ignored the dirty looks from my siblings, and took a seat at the head of the mahogany dining table. The air in the room was so thick with tension, you could practically taste the rust. Before the lawyer could even unclasp the brass latches of his bag, Steve leaned forward, pointing a manicured finger directly at my chest. "Let's get one thing straight before we start," he spat. "We know exactly what you've been doing, Dave. You've been living here for 7 years without paying a single dime in rent. A free ride." Karen chimed in immediately, her voice shrill and accusatory. "Exactly. While we were out there working real jobs and raising families, you were just crashing here, eating Mom's food and using her utilities. Honestly, I would be surprised if there is any money left in her pension account. You probably drained that dry too, didn't you?" I sat there, gripping the arms of my chair until my knuckles turned white. They had no idea. They did not know about the sleepless nights, the adult diapers, the spoon feeding, or the screams of confusion at 3 a.m. To them, my sacrifice was just a 7-year vacation. They looked at me with pure contempt, convinced that I was the villain of this story. Steve reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He smoothed it out on the table with a triumphant smirk. It was a printout from a real estate website. "Look at this," he said, tapping the bowl number at the top. "The current market value is sitting at $400,000. That is a conservative estimate. If we sell it quickly, maybe we take $390,000. That is $130,000 each. We want the listing agreement signed today, and we want our checks as soon as escrow closes." Karen nodded vigorously, crossing her arms. "And frankly, David, since you live here rent-free for so long, your share should probably be reduced to cover back rent. But we are generous people. We will settle for an even 3-way split just to get this over with quickly." I looked at Mr. Henderson. He had not said a word yet. He just watched them with a calm, almost bored expression. Slowly, deliberately, he clicked open the latches of his briefcase. The sound was sharp, like a pistol cocking in the silent room. He pulled out a thick black binder and placed it gently on the table. He adjusted his glasses and opened the cover. "I understand you are eager to discuss the distribution of assets," Mr. Henderson said, his voice gravelly and low. "But in probate, before we discuss assets, we must discuss debts." He looked over his spectacles at Steve, then at Karen, his eyes narrowing slightly. "And according to records I have right here, the biggest debtor to this estate is you too." The silence that followed was absolute. Steve blinked, his mouth slightly open, looking like he had just been slapped. Karen let out a short, nervous laugh. "Debts? What are you talking about? We do not owe Mom anything. She helped us out sometimes, sure, but those were gifts." Mr. Henderson ignored her. He flipped open the binder to a section marked with a red tab. He spun the book around so it faced him. The page was a spreadsheet, dense with dates, amounts, and notes. "This is the ledger," he said simply. "Your mother was a meticulous bookkeeper. Every time she wrote a check, she recorded it. And for the last 15 years, she kept a running tally of every single dollar that left her account and went into yours." He pointed a long finger at the first column. "March 2009, $15,000 for Steve's legal fees. Bail money for your son, I believe." Steve turned a shade of pale gray. The lawyer's finger moved down. "June 2012, $25,000. Karen's second wedding. Paid in full to the venue." Karen shifted in her seat, suddenly finding the tablecloth very interesting. "August 2015, $50,000. A business loan for Steve's startup that never quite started up." Mr. Henderson looked up. "I have tallied the total transfers over the last decade and a half. Between the two of you, the total comes to $250,000. Your mother classified these not as gifts, but as early inheritance." "That is a lie," Steve shouted, slamming his fist on the table. The Zillow printout fluttered to the floor. "Mom gave us that money. She told me explicitly, 'Steve, do not worry about it.' She never asked for a cent back. You can't just retroactively decide these were loans." Karen was nodding furiously, her face flush red. "Exactly. You are twisting her words. She was our mother. She wanted to help us. There is no contract, no promissory note. You cannot enforce this. This is just David trying to steal our share." I stayed silent. I knew Mom. She was generous, yes, but she was also fair, and she knew exactly who was taking advantage of her. Mr. Henderson didn't even blink. He reached back into his briefcase and pulled out a single, crisp sheet of paper. It had a blue legal seal at the bottom and Mom's shaky but unmistakable signature. "Actually," the lawyer said, sliding the document across the polished wood toward them, She signed this codicil 5 years ago, right around the time her memory started to fade. She was lucid, and we videotaped the signing to ensure there will be no questions of competency. He tapped the paper. It states clearly, all financial transfers to Karen and Steve exceeding $500 are to be considered advances on their final inheritance. It is ironclad. You do not owe the money back right now, but it is deducted from your share of the estate. Steve picked up the paper, his hands trembling. He read it, his eyes darting back and forth. He dropped it like it was burning hot. "Okay," he stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. "Fine. So we take that out. The house is worth $400,000. We owe what? $250,000? That leaves $150,000 in equity. We still get $50,000 each. I want my 50 grand. Steve was doing mental gymnastics now, desperate to salvage any payout he could. He looked at me with a mixture of hatred and panic. "Fine, deduct the advances. Just cut us a check for the difference, and we will leave. We are done here." I finally spoke up. My voice was quiet, but it carried across the room. "You think there's $150,000 left?" I shook my head slowly. "You really have no idea what it costs to keep a person alive with dementia, do you?" I stood up and walked over to the sideboard where I kept my own records. I pulled out a thick accordion folder, stuffed with receipts, invoices, and bank statements. I dropped on the table with a heavy thud. "Mom did not have long-term care insurance," I said. "Memory care facilities cost $6,000 a month on the low end. For 7 years, that would have been over $500,000. We didn't have that." I opened the folder. "So I did it. I quit my job. I moved in. I became the nurse, the cook, the cleaner, and the security guard. But even with me doing the labor for free, there were costs. Medical equipment, prescription drugs that Medicare didn't cover, home repairs to make the bathroom accessible, property taxes, heating bills." I looked at Karen. Mom's pension was small. It barely covered groceries. For the last 4 years, I've been paying for everything else out of my own savings. My retirement fund is gone. My savings account is empty. Karen scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, please, David. You are so dramatic. You bought groceries. Big deal. You lived here for free. That has to count for something." "It does," Mr. Henderson interjected smoothly. "We calculated the fair market rent for a single room in this house versus the fair market value of 24-hour in-home nursing care. David provided services valued at approximately $80,000 a year. The rent deduction is negligible in comparison." He opened another file. "David has submitted a formal claim against the estate for reimbursement of expenses. We have receipts for every dollar he spent on the house and your mother's care. The new roof last year, David paid for it. The property taxes for the last 5 years, David paid them." The lawyer turned the page. "The total claim for reimbursement stands at $180,000. This is not an inheritance share. This is a debt the estate owes to David as a creditor, which must be paid before any inheritance is distributed." Steve looked like he was going to be sick. He did the math in his head, but he didn't want to believe the answer. Mr. Henderson pulled out a calculator and punched in the numbers for everyone to see. Total asset value, $400,000, less David's reimbursement claim of $180,000. Remaining estate value, $220,000. He looked up, his eyes cold. "After deducting your advances of $250,000 and David's reimbursement, the estate is insolvent." The word insolvent hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Steve stared at the calculator as if it were an alien artifact. "Insolvent," he whispered. That means zero? We get nothing." "Actually," Mr. Henderson corrected him, "it means less than zero." He turned the ledger back to the page with Steve's loans. "Your personal advances total $140,000. Karen's are $110,000. The remaining equity in the house after paying David back is only $220,000. That is not enough to cover the advance inheritance you both already received. The lawyer leaned forward, his voice dropping to a serious, legal monotone. Technically, because you borrowed more than your share of the estate's final value, you have been overpaid. The estate has a legal right to claw back the difference. Steve, you owe the estate roughly $30,000. Karen, you are about break even, maybe owe a few thousand. Steve's face went white. He stood up, knocking his chair back. I don't have $30,000. I spent that money years ago. You can't sue me for money Mom gave me. We will, I said, speaking for the first time in minutes. I looked at my brother, seeing him not as the intimidating older sibling he used to be, but as a desperate, greedy man who had finally been cornered. Unless... I paused, letting the silence stretch out. I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to feel the weight of their own selfishness. Unless what? Karen asked, her voice trembling. What do you want, David? I want the house, I said firmly. All of it. I slid a document across the table that had been sitting under my coffee cup the whole time. It was a quitclaim deed. Here is the deal, I said, my voice steady. The math says the house has to be sold to pay me back my reimbursement. But if we sell it, we pay realtor fees, closing costs, and taxes. The pot gets smaller. And then Mr. Henderson goes after you. Steve, for the $30,000 you owe the estate. Steve looked at the lawyer, who nodded grimly. It is my fiduciary duty to collect all debts owed to the estate. Henderson said, I will file the lawsuit on Monday. I tapped the deed. Or, I continued, you two sign your interest in the house over to me right now. You walk away. You get nothing, but you pay nothing. I keep the house's payment for my reimbursement and my share. We call it even. No lawsuits. No debts. We just finished this. Karen looked at the paper, then at Steve. She looked at the luxury rental car keys on the table, then at her designer purse. She realized she had no leverage. She had come here expecting a windfall, and now she was staring down the barrel of a lawsuit she couldn't afford. Steve was breathing hard. He looked at the house around him, the walls he had just appraised, the furniture he had planned to sell. He realized it was all slipping through his fingers like sand. If I sign, Steve gritted out, you promise you won't sue? I promise. I said, sign it, and you never have to think about this place or me ever again. Steve and Karen looked at each other. They could either walk away with nothing or walk away with a lawsuit debt. What do they choose? Steve snatched the pen from the table. He didn't look at me. He scribbled his signature on the line, so hard the pen almost tore the paper. He shoved the deed toward Karen. She hesitated for a second, a tear of frustration leaking out of her eye, before she signed it too. There, Steve spat. Happy? You got what you wanted. You got the whole damn thing. I got my home, I said quietly, and I kept my promise to Mom. They didn't say goodbye. They grabbed their coats and stormed out the front door. I heard the engines of their rental cars roar to life, tires spinning on the gravel as they peeled out of the driveway. They were gone. Mr. Henderson picked up the deed, checked the signatures, and notarized it right there on the table. He closed his briefcase with a satisfying snap. Well done, David, he said softly. Your mother would have been proud. 3 months later, the house was unrecognizable. Not because I had sold it, but because I was finally making it mine. I was sanding down the floors, painting the walls a bright, airy blue, and fixing up the garden. I wasn't keeping it, though. The memories here were too heavy, too full of sickness and struggle. I put it on the market, and it sold in a week for $420,000, $20,000 over asking. I took that money and bought a small, quiet cottage in a beach town 3 states away. It was smaller, simpler, and far away from the ghosts of the past. I had enough left over to replenish my retirement fund and live comfortably. I never heard from Steve or Karen again. I blocked their numbers the day they drove away. Last I heard through a distant cousin, they were fighting each other now. Apparently, Steve had borrowed money from Karen to pay for his trip to the funeral, and he never paid her back. They were locked in their own cycle of greed and resentment, and I was finally, blissfully out of it. Before I left town for good, I made one last stop. I drove to the cemetery with a bouquet of fresh white lilies. The grass had grown over the dirt now, blending the grave into the green landscape. It looked peaceful. I knelt down and traced the letters on the headstone. "I did it, Mom," I whispered. "They didn't get the house. They didn't tear it apart. I settled the debts. It is all done." The wind rustled through the trees, a soft, gentle sound that felt like a sigh of relief. I stood up, brushed the dirt off my knees, and walked back to my car. I didn't look back. I had a long drive ahead of me, toward the ocean, toward a new life, and for the first time in 7 years, I felt completely, wonderfully free.
If you enjoy radio-style stories like this, please consider staying with us. This is QCF.